Okay, everyone listening in the cyberspace and in the digital universe, we are here again, two girls talking. We're talking about books, 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 and Africa and smart kids and all things like that. Welcome, Beatrice, and it's nice to have you here again. And thank you for inviting me in this conversation.
Oh, yes, P. You and I, we ignited this conversation. We are in this until the end, and thereafter, we will still continue the conversation. And
Yes, ma'am.
it's always very exciting to join. Oh, our sister is already out there from Germany. Women of Change,
Okay.
I salute you. We salute you, sister.
Hi.
You are the reason why we do this every day.
To see what you're talking
So,
about. Yeah. So
so
it's night
again,
here in Japan.
for those who are tuning in, this is the Globuntu Books month of August book launch. We made a commitment to walk you through 29 of our books in 27 days. We are
Mhm.
keeping to our promise, and we see we're getting quite a lot of sisters and brothers out there who are joining the conversation. Sometimes the conversation is bumpy, sometimes it is exciting, sometimes it is fun, sometimes it is soul searching, thought provoking. This is all of what we are offering in this month of August. And having gone through 16, I counted, we've done 16. Today is the 18. I get confused because the days are different and then the book numbers are different. We started on the 3rd. So if today is the 21st, then we are doing our 18th book. Yes.
Can you
So, and it's
imagine that?
of the Africa for Smart Kids series.
Can you imagine 3 years ago you would have had 18 books?
3.5 years ago, yes, this is the journey of 3.5 years writing. Globuntu Books is 3.5 years old, and we are launching 29 books, girl. 29 books. It's our time. And we have three award-winning books. One
Yes.
diaspora book from one Dr. Pauline Felicia Baird and two young authors from South Africa. And the journey has only just begun, right?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So what are we talking about today?
Today, we are asking a very, very critical question. That is the title of this book. Are all Africans Black? This is book 3
Right.
of the Africa for Smart Kids book series. And this is, I must admit, when I came up with the title of this book, I asked myself the question, is it a good title? But because we love
Mhm.
controversy, because we're thought provoking, because we like to go right deep into the soul, because we like to walk that talk, we love
Mhm.
to ignite conversations. I said, yeah, why not? Are all Africans Black? But again, this is the question that people ask me in Europe. Every African
Yes.
that is on the street is Black. They think every Black person is African. And so
Mhm.
you could ask this question the other way around. Is every Black person an African? Are all
Mhm.
Africans
That
Black?
yes.
Is every Black person an African? That's the other
Yes,
side of the
and
question.
that's a good question because when you met me, you said, "Who are you?" Because I
Right.
have this accent and I'm not continental African. And you said, who are you? Where do you come from? What's it about you? And I'm thinking, am I alien now? Yeah,
I
but
was like,
yeah,
you're in Guam? What is Guam? Where is Guam? You should be here
yeah,
because you look like my sister next door.
there you go. Yes.
You know, Kwame Nkrumah once said, you are an African not because you were born in Africa, but because Africa is born in you. And
Mm,
I think it is very deep. It is very, very deep, And I know some Africans who would rather be something else than be African. And I must tell you, P, I was not always a proud African. No, when I did my
mm,
colonial education and went to Europe, I was like, okay, I'm a better. I did everything I could to become European. I defined myself
mm.
every day. I wanted to belong. I wanted to belong. And when I got the
Yeah.
citizenship, I was like, why don't you see? I'm an Austrian. And then I had to come
Yeah.
around. I'm a black Austrian. I'm a black European. Yeah.
Let me say
So
something. Um, when I remember a conversation where you said to me, you were on the bus and you would hear Africans speaking pidgin and you were so upset with them, like why they come to this super good country and speaking pidgin, where they don't speak the people's language. What does it
Oh no, that
mean
one
when
did
you
not
say
come from me. That one did
no?
not come from me. It came from someone else.
Okay, so
When people spoke pidgin in the bus, I turned around and I smiled a little bit, and I wish I could speak with them. I wish I
yeah,
could speak
okay,
to them. But when I learned German, when I got to Austria, the first thing that they said from the integration package that they have for me was that you have to learn the language. So
okay,
I went down to learning German, and within 1 year, I could study at
a
a
minute.
university. Yes, I could start my studies at a university, and going through learning German was another step. It was like another step of what I had learned at home, about Europe. And
Yes,
you learn so many things about Austria. And in the class, you meet a lot of people, and I can tell you stories. There were times
yes,
when I'm in the bus, this little girl comes to me and touches my hand like this, and like, is the color gonna, does the color go away? And then
chocolate.
I'm in the class learning German, and there's this Turkish guy. I will never forget him. So I don't know what we were talking about. And I said, I'm very proud of my black color. And this guy
Hmm.
says, others were like, how? Why? And then this guy said, I know why. And I was curious. I said, so why? Why do you think I'm proud of my skin color? He says,
Hmm.
because if you don't take a shower, no one notices it. And I
What?
just laughed myself.
Oh my goodness,
I
there is that out there?
Listen, it was in the class. We were learning German. So the next thing
Uh-huh.
I did, I just went, I kind of scratched my hand like this, and nothing. You see, you don't see anything. And then I just turned
Mm.
around and scratched his, and there were a lot of, you could see
Skin
that
that
thing.
came off like flakes and dry skin. Uh-huh. Hmm.
So you have those stories. You have stories in Austria where, back at the time, I went to Austria in 1995. So when you want to rent an apartment, because you're black, people say no, they're afraid that your skin color will fade on the wall. I mean, there were just such weird
Oh,
stories about being black. And you realize that along the line, because you want to belong, I mean, it's not an excuse. I'm just explaining my
yeah,
journey.
yeah,
You want to belong, you want to be looked upon, you want to be accepted. And so
yeah.
we did all kinds of things. I tried to speak German. First, I tried to speak some German without an accent until I was constantly
Okay.
reminded that I always speak with an accent. So I had
That's
to
it.
embrace my
Hmm.
accent.
Okay. Right.
When people tell you, when are you going back to Africa, I would be very, 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 very hard on them. I'm saying, like, why are you
Hmm.
telling me when am I going back to Africa? I am here. My children are born here. And 2011, I still had a conversation.
Hmm.
It's in one of my first book. It's in one of my first book. In 2011, there were journalists who were asking me, when are you going home? And I was like,
Really?
excuse me, we're home. Home is here. I have the citizenship. My children are born here, and I'm going to go to the mayor and ask him to already give him my grave in the central graveyard. So I
Really?
already with buried. And I was saying, like, you want me to go home? Who will know? When I'm talking about things that have happened here for the last 18 years, who will know about them? You want me to go where and be lonely? I was very hard. And in
Yeah.
2014, Matthew, 2014 shit happened in a way that I found myself in 2015, like literally going on my knees and packing my two suitcases and going back to Africa, the continent that we call home. And the people who were
Hmm.
having the conversation with me, in that conversation, I had one of my two Cameroonian brothers and one from Ivory Coast. And they were saying they're going home and preparing their return. And I was saying, like, you are going to return where? They're still in Austria. And here I am.
Wow. So let me ask you this. Say a little bit more. You said an African is someone in whom Africa was born. What does that mean?
Kwame
What do you
Nkrumah
mean?
said that. I'm still trying
Africa
to
is born in
dissect.
you. What does it mean to have Africa be born in you?
I'm still trying to dissect that. It's not from
Yeah.
me. It's from Kwame Nkrumah. It's from Kwame
Yes.
Nkrumah, and
But your
so I'm still
understanding.
trying
Yeah.
to dissect because the perspective that I'm taking in the book that we're talking about today, um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where to fit it in that quote. I don't know where to
Right.
fit it in that quote, but I can understand. I can understand where Kwame Nkrumah came from to say that you're African. You're an African not because you were born in Africa, but because Africa was born in you. When you look at it from the
Hmm.
perspective of colonization and enslavement,
Hmm.
those of our ancestors who were taken away from Africa, people like you who were born in the diaspora. So I
Hmm.
think, in my interpretation, he is talking to people like you, people like Marcus
Hmm.
Garvey, people like Bob Marley, uh, like um, people like what name can I say? Rosa Parks, people like
Yeah.
people of the people who were born in the diaspora, to say you must not think that you're not African enough because you were not born in
Yeah.
Africa, because in any way Africa is born in you. Africa is born in you.
Uh,
So this is
mm.
my interpretation. I wish I could ask him what he meant by that, but that is what I
And
understand from that quote.
hmm, I
Mm-hmm.
got to digest that myself. But and since we're speaking about that, we have African retentions and we have African things we practice, and even we unconsciously practice. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's in us, just
Yes.
waiting to come alive and to make itself present. And it's not something that everybody is proud of. Some people don't want to be considered African from Guyana and from
Mm-hmm.
other parts of the Caribbean. They just consider themselves Guyanese, Caribbeans, whatever, not necessarily linked to Africa. There are people who would prefer not to be given that title.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who embrace Africa and have a longing to go to the motherland, as they say. They want to go to Africa
Mm-hmm.
and see at least a continent. In most of my life, I never had a desire to go to Africa. And someone once sort of accused me and said, I romanticize Africa. I said,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I do. I don't know enough about Africa to romanticize Africa. But they say that's the diaspora's, you know, position, that they romanticize Africa, that everything is so good about Africa and they never been here, they never seen Africa, and things like that. Until I met you, I had no desire to go to Africa at all. So
And
that
I am
invitation,
glad.
like, to Africa was left field. And last year this
Mm-hmm.
time I just come back from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what was born when.
P. Sometimes when we grow up, we have other challenges in life.
Hmm.
We are struggling to educate ourselves. We then sometimes, we are children. We are learning, and then we become teenagers. We have other challenges. Identity crisis set in. Then we become a young adult. Sometimes we get education. Some people travel. We have children, and all along the way, we are going with the flow. We're going with the flow and facing the challenges that we have and enjoying the good moments that we have. And then come a
Hmm.
point in time when you have gone past all of that. And then the question of identity comes up. Who am I? Where do I come from? And from that moment, when you start asking the question, when it becomes persistent and consistent, you know that you got to find out. You got to do some
Yeah.
uncomfortable conversations. And when you allowed yourself to do those comfortable, soul searching conversations, you get down to realizing that, in my case, I had to admit that I am an African. And the fact that,
Yeah.
and I had to admit that the fact that at some point, I was not a very proud African, had to do
Mm.
with the ignorance of what being an African is. My knowledge of Africa was superficial. It was the knowledge that we
Right.
have from school. It's the knowledge that we have in the media. It's the knowledge that public opinion holds. It's the knowledge of charity organizations. It's a knowledge of insufficiency, lack, negativity, poverty, and
Yeah.
all of that. But when I got down to doing my research, because I really needed to find out who am I really, what does it mean to be an Africa, why is Africa called the cradle of humankind, and
Right.
always been there. People have come and gone. There've been charity, development aids, and all of that, and people still say Africa is poor. So what is it? I had to go find out. And what I discovered on that journey, it's something that I haven't even gone one third of the journey, but the pride that I have developed along the way, and I'm saying today, I am a very, very, very proud African woman because I have to catch out I have to catch up. Sorry, I have to catch up on the years that I was not a proud African woman, because today I
Right.
know my legacy. I know part of my heritage, and I know it is a very, very rich and vast one. So, so I'm trying to catch up. If you're out there, you're listening, and you've been on the same journey like me, when your time comes, you'll find out. I wish for you that you're open. When you go on that journey, that you're open and receptive, that that you allowed yourself to be vulnerable, that you admit where you have been, and that you come with an open mind to discover, not to find, not to find confirmations for the assumptions or the perceptions that you have, or that someone has put on your mind about your continent, Africa. By this, I'm also saying that to you, P. It was
Yeah.
never a subject to you. But when we met, when I was still on my journey of discovering who I am as an African woman, look, it didn't take long. We wrote books. It didn't take long. You came to Africa. Now you and I are having this conversation because we were
Mm.
ready, right? We
Yeah.
were ready. And I think if you are not ready, don't worry. Don't worry. Some people will never be ready. But if the conversation comes and you need to do it, I invite you and I encourage you to absolutely do that identity seeking
Yeah.
conversation. It is very important. P, let's see the people. We have our
Yes.
sister. We
Let's
have
see what our
Geraldine.
audience
Good morning.
is saying about.
Wait, Geraldine is saying good morning. Good morning, Geraldine. To Washington, we appreciate that you wake up every day with us. We hope that the day is going to be great for you. Sister Cornelia says, congrats. Geraldine says, are we disliked because of enslavement or because of the color of our skin? Geraldine, I think you have the answer to that. My very little answer would be both. It's a combination of both and even much more. And we can talk more on that. Sharon Lebo-Clartier says, interesting conversation. Sharon, we see you. Join the conversation. It's an exciting one. And Geraldine says, Miss P, growing up in Barbados, we never learned Africa. However, that has
Wow.
changed. I am
Yes.
so glad
Yes.
it is changing. I'm so glad it is
I agree.
changing. Yes, P.
Yeah, I agree with Geraldine because we who get Caribbean or West Indian education, I can't hear a thing.
But I hear you, P. I hear you.
Oh, yes. I don't know what's going on. I'm seeing something different. Yeah, okay. We who had a West Indian education or a Caribbean education or Guyanese education, our history was history of Britain. And when we did get history in Guyana, we had West Indian history or history of the West Indies. Guyanese history was just very, very small. And Africa, I don't remember studying anything about Africa
Mm-hmm.
or anything much about Africa at all. So maybe there is an opportunity there, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
where there aren't any opportunity, I think that programs like these give parents tools to have those conversations or make it their business of giving their children a rounder kind of education, a rounder education in terms of what
Mm-hmm.
they might be missing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Pete, when we go down to the book, I'll read the preface for you exceptionally. The preface
Yes.
from my mentor, Carol Stewart.
Yes.
She is one of the top 50 business coaches in the UK, and she wrote a book. She's written a couple of books, and her most recent book is Quietly Invisible.
Yes.
It's a book about introvert women. So Carol grew up in the UK, and I will go into the book if you allowed me now. We can just
Yes.
rush through
Please
the book
do
like
that.
we
Yes.
normally do, just to give people an insight in the book.
I have
So
the
I'll
next
go.
co-host here. My co-host, my co-host is bothering me.
I
Everybody, this
see.
is Kobe. Yes.
Your co-host is seeking attention,
Yes.
right? So I'm taking us to my screen. P, can you see my screen?
It's yes, I can.
So I'll just go up to the top page. So that is the title, Are All Africans Black? and I'll just walk you through is the usual thing. Inside the book, you find some proverbs. Again, I use every page of my book. Whatever I put in is put in intentionally to share another piece of knowledge, even when it doesn't have to do with the title of the book. I try to utilize as space as possible to share as much as I can. So you find African wisdom in there, and I just like this one. Wisdom is like a baobab. No one individual can embrace it. So that
Mm-hmm.
one is from Ghana. And then we have our table of content. After meeting our storytellers and Zangalo, we go quickly to the content of this book. So the first chapter is how diverse is Africa really? What is the life expectancy in Africa today? Are there people with disabilities in Africa? How many ethnic groups are there in Africa? Altogether. Ooh, okay. Are there gays and lesbians in Africa too? Are all Africans black? So the title comes in chapter 6. Are there Africans who are white? Not all Africans abroad are immigrants. Are there immigrants in Africa too? So this is like basically how many languages are spoken in Africa today. So this book, if you're a diversity expert, you're a diversity professional, this is a book about the diversity of Africa. So I wrote that book from my diversity lens or perspective. And so, as usual in Globuntubooks, Books, you always have the reader's guide. The reader's guide
Yes.
that shows you what you can do with the book. Um, just open doors. And then you have another proverb: if you think education is expensive, P, then try ignorance. And so this takes us to the preface of Carol. Carol, who was my mentor, she started mentoring me when I started writing this book series, and she basically saw this growth. So she says, "Oh, how I wish I had Africa for Smart Kids when I was a child. Growing up in Sheffield in the United Kingdom, the daughter of Jamaican immigrants, I did not know anything about my African heritage. All I knew about Africa were the negative messages that the media portrayed, forming in me a conscious bias towards what I now know to be such a beautiful continent. I believe that every child of African descent needs to read Africa for Smart Kids to learn about the culture and the history of the African continent that is so often misrepresented. And not only that, I believe that all children will benefit from reading Africa for Smart Kids too. Having been introduced to Beatrice through the through blah 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 as her mentor, I immediately hit it off. I have seen the Africa for Smart Kids come to life during the time working together, and I am excited to see the series grow. Whilst I didn't believe in people's heritage, while I don't believe a person's heritage fully determines who they are or who they will become, I do believe it is important that we know our heritage in order to understand who we are. So, it goes there. I just wanted to give a hint. She too, growing up in the UK, had the same experiences that we all have. As African people, whether you grow up in the diaspora or at home, what you learn about Africa is generally very negative. It's generally very negative. Okay. So another proverb here, every until the lion learns how to ride, every story would glorify the hunter. Can you relate
Yes.
with this?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is an African proverb that tells us so much. The reason why we should write these books, just to change the perceptions that people have about us. So after that, we meet our storytellers, and again, I dress them up in another fabric. It's all African fabric. This time, I think we have the bogolang from Senegal. So I always dress them in different African fabrics that tells the story as well. And then you meet Mosquito Zangalo and your challenge. And like in every other Africa for Smart Kids books, you have a lot of pictures inside that tell you another story. You either having proverbs or you're having pictures, and they take you to places in the continent. Now, our chapter 1 is how diverse is Africa, and we're basically introducing the concept of diversity and letting people know that Africa is a continent that is so diverse in terms of culture, in terms of its people, in terms of the languages spoken, in terms of its geography, and in terms of its climate zone. It's very, very diverse. Now we take you quickly to Cameroon. This is the foot of the Mount Cameroon. Mount Cameroon is the second highest mountain in Africa. This is right at the foot of that mountain. Another name for the mountain is Mount Fako. Now, what is the life expectancy in Africa today? So we talk about generations in this chapter, about generations, and some of the values that comes with people being elderly. The respect for elderly people, how we deal with them. And like we say, an elderly person is like a library, and when he or she dies, a library goes down. So it's just introducing the concept of generations from an African perspective. And for people who doubt in themselves, here's another African proverb: if you think you are too small to make a difference, you haven't spent the night with
I like
a
that.
yeah. So whether you're a king or a queen, a mosquito doesn't have respect for your social status or your size or whatever it is, and it is so small. So we take you to Nigeria to Oshun Osugbo's a sacred grove. For those of you who love African mythology and African spirituality, you probably know the goddess Osum. In chapter 3, we are talking about people with disabilities. Again, this is like a diversity book, and we're giving you some facts and figures there that are global facts that you find everywhere from the UN documents and from other websites. I just had to put in some statistics in there. When an old man dies, a library burns to the ground. Yeah, that is an African proverb. That's just what we were saying. So again, you find all those things. You find beautiful landscapes like this. The Okanda Reserve in Gabon. Okay, so we're taking you to different places in Africa. How many ethnic groups are there in Africa? So here we talk about the fact that there are just so many of them, we can't even count them, but there are more than 3,000. And here in this chart, you get the ten most popular tribes in Africa and their population. It's all listed out there if you want to know them. And then Mosquito Zangalo will always come with questions. Now, we take you to Seychelles. Seychelles is the smallest country in Africa. It's a very beautiful island. Just giving you some things that will make you have a different perspective of Africa just by going through this book. And you can just go through the pictures to have a perception, and you can read the text to complement what you see in the pictures. This is in Guinea-Bissau. It's in West Africa. So right here, there's some words that I use that I think kids may want to know what they mean. So I put something like a small glossary in here to explain words like diversity, lesbian, gay, transgender, all those things. They are in the book. Now we go down to the diversity, the religion in Africa. You want to know which is the highest religious group in Africa. I have a table here that gives you the statistics. The ranking and the religion, and then the total population that belongs to that religion. Here we have some other words that we have to explain to the kids: xenophobia, Afrophobia, discrimination. We explain all of those. While we're still taking you around, this is still in Equatorial Guinea, the beautiful island of Atabong. So now we come to the question: are all Africans black? And so here my storytellers are going around and asking questions and trying to find answers, defining the term black and what does it mean. They're talking about different people that they have met, especially in Austria, people who were taken during the enslavement and who grew up in Austria, like Angelo Soleiman. So they're trying to pick up the people that they think are black for them. But the conversation still continues. It continues right down. You will have to get the book to have all what they're talking about. Now we take you to Sao Tome, and just showing you some beautiful landscapes while we're talking really hard. We're having really hard conversations. And now to answer, to complement the question: are all Africans black? There is the question as to whether they are white Africans. There is anything like white Africans. And this conversation takes us to those African countries that have a wide segment of the population. South Africa has the highest number of white people on the continent. And I also want to say that in the northern part of Africa, we also have Africans who are white, who do not look as dark skinned as those of us who come from Central, Western, and Southern Africa. So they will take you around and show you some of those countries. some of those the statistics and numbers and the countries where you have people who are not white people in Africa. So we also go into albinoism. It's something. It's a concept, or it's something that is still very kind of not spoken about. It's sometimes stigmatized to be an albino in some African countries. It's a stigma. But I wanted to show Salif Keita, who is a very very popular African musician. Who made it, he is very successful in spite of his albinoism, and the fact that, and based on that, he's been doing quite a lot of awareness raising work on albinoism. Now we go down to one chart, and we have the African countries that have populations that are white populations, so to say. So you see they're all ranked here in terms of the number of population and the percentage of that number in the total population of the country. Okay, so we take you to Comoros Island, show you some beautiful landscapes before we ask the questions if they are there Africans abroad who are not immigrants. And P, this is, this is like, just like, this is like going back to your conversation, those Africans who were taken out of the continent during enslavement, and those who went even before enslavement on their own. Some of them, they are in like Barbados, like you were saying, the part of the world where you come from, where they were born. They are in those countries not as immigrants, but as citizens. Those of us who leave Africa to go to Europe, I considered myself in Europe as an immigrant, or Europe told me I was an immigrant, and I could readily accept that. But my children, who is born in Austria, the question is she an immigrant in Austria because her mom is an immigrant, or can she be an Austrian and a European, a black Austrian and a black European? In Africa, when she comes to Cameroon, when she's here, she was very irritated the last time when she was in South Africa because people called her yellow bones and people call her white. And she's saying that, where do I belong now? Where do I belong? When I'm in Europe, they tell me you're African. When I come to Africa, they tell me I'm white. So where do I belong? And so this concept of this question of asking whether there are some Africans abroad who are not immigrants is opening that door to a conversation to say, can we be dual? Can we have dual identities? Can we be African Americans? Can we be African South Americans? Can we be African European? Can we be African Asians? It's a very profound question that I can't pretend to have the answers right here. I'm just igniting a conversation based on experiences, mine and those of my children. And right from there, we also go to India. I did not know that there is a huge population of people of African descent in India. They live in a small village between India and Pakistan, and it looks completely like African. So they've been living there for centuries. So the question is, are we going to say they're Africans, or are we going to say they're Indians? And for me, another critical question is, who has the right to define them? Can these people define themselves, from their perspective to say who they are? Who do they say they are, or want to be, or want to be seen to be? So it's that question that I'm asking right here. But they have never been in Africa for generations. They've been living there for over 2,000 years. They are 2,000 years. Sorry, I think that's a mistake. They've been living there for hundreds of years. They grow up there. They don't even know Africa. They don't speak an African language. So this is a conversation that I want to say. Can we look for Africans around the globe, people who look like African, because they're black? Is it right to say they're African, or is it right to say whatever? What do we say there? What do we do? I'm not putting up an answer. I'm asking questions. So now we look at the statistics of number of people, black people around the world, or people of African descent in different countries in the world. P, where do you think that the highest number of people of African descent are outside of Africa?
Well, I know Brazil.
It's right in front of you. So I had to go
Yeah.
looking for statistics.
Well, Brazil is my country's southern neighbor. It's we
I
share a
see.
southern border. Yes,
I
so there are
see.
lots of Africans there with lots of traditions and oppressed peoples, because there's a lot of discrimination and things that go on there with people with melanin skin.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you. So here we just have the statistics, just putting out there so we know, people are. We also have the population of Indian in African countries. The highest number of them are in South Africa, but as you can see, they are in a couple of other African countries. By the numbers, you find them right here. So that is that question, answering the questions: are all Africans black? Is everyone who is black African? Is everyone who lives in Africa African? Or is everyone who has a black skin color, melanin skin color somewhere in the world African? I just want to have a conversation here. I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer. So with that, we're asking the question: are there immigrants in Africa too? And was for me, when I was doing research, very interesting, that I realized that there was a time when quite a huge number of Portuguese moved to former countries that were colonized by the Portuguese, Angola and Mozambique, in search of jobs when the economy ran down in Portugal. So quite a lot of them came in. And I also noticed that within the last couple of years, the number of Chinese that have moved to Africa is quite huge. But the
Mm-hmm.
interesting thing, in Africa, they don't call them immigrants. They are called business people or investors or whatever. You don't get that word because immigrant is a very limiting word. When you get that stigma or that brand, you're an immigrant. It doesn't mean something very positive. It always comes with a bunch of limitations. So I was curious to say, people who are in Africa, they're either expatriates, they're business people, every other thing, but not immigrants. So that was very
Mm-hmm.
interesting to find out. So this is basically what book 6 is about. This is the Sahara Desert. It's a very beautiful, this beautiful landscape. Just sharing them with you, the readers. How many languages are spoken in Africa? And right there are just so many languages that are spoken. But I picked the most popular languages. So some statistics say in Cameroon, we know that some statistics says we have 260 languages, some say 250 languages, but we do have quite a lot of languages in Cameroon. Some say Nigeria has about 500 languages. These are some statistics, but right here I have the list of the 10 most spoken languages in Africa. And interestingly enough, the most spoken language in Africa is a colonial language. It's a colonial language, which is English, and then we have Arabic, and the African language the first African language comes in the third position, which is Swahili, and then followed by French. And of course, this has to do with the colonial history of the continent, right? So all the languages are listed right there. And then what do we do? This is in Togo. This beautiful island is in Togo. That's where we take you. So what do I read next? That's always the last chapter where we introduce the next book and then the total list of books that are here. And I want to take a little bit of time on this P. At the end of every Globuntu book, you find your Globuntu Live Vision Plan, because we want that when the readers read the book, they should engage with themselves, and they should have an exercise that allows them to evaluate their personal growth. But we also want to not provoke them, invite them to become thinkers. We want to inspire them to be proactive in planning their own lives. So you always see this at the end of every Globuntu book. It's like your vision plan, your life vision plan. When I grow up, I want to be. In order to be that, I need to know. So you have to think and put in answers there. And finding those answers really allowed you to develop your life vision, to become more conscious, and to plan your life. And when you have that, the power of me is an exercise that I do with myself almost every time. Like when you face challenges, you forget how powerful you are. When you're in a space of limitation, of difficulties, you forget. But when you say, I am, just I am, and then you start thinking, I am alive, I am a woman, I am knowledgeable, I am intelligent, I am articulate, I am. So you start seeing how much resources you have in you. I have friends. I have my two eyes. I have my 2 feet. I have. You see how much you have just in the moment when you thought that you had nothing. I know, probably know people. You know some influential people. You know places. You know things. You know history. You know something. There's always something that you know. There's something, always something that you can. There is always something that you love. And when you find that thing that you love, that could be something, that thing that takes you out of your challenge. I found out that I love writing books. And just that took me out of my shitty situation. And I've been able to write so many books, 19 books in less than 3.5 years.
Hmm.
That could be where you find your passion. I come from, that's where you think about your source, your identity, your origin. The power of who you become is right there. When you know where you come from, you may be able to tap into so many resources that you were not aware of if you just do this exercise. I'm capable of, I deserve, when you do that, then there is your life planning. When you have that vision, you have the vision planning timeline. What am I going to do today? What am I going to do this week? What am I going to do this month? What am I going to do in the next 3 months? And that takes you down to the next 5 years. Just by finishing, after you finish reading this book and doing this exercise, can really help you to organize your life in the next 5 years, and so much can change for you. So, P, that is how the book looks like. That is what is in that book. And again, we love sharing. So, people, when you want to get this book, you know what is it that is in the package for you. We don't want to sell you a cat in a whatever. So let's
Yeah.
see.
Let's see what the people are saying. Can
So
we
there is no
see what
comment yet
comment?
out there. There is no comment. Please, if you have comments or questions or whatever is on your mind, Sister Cornelia, join the conversation. Sis Gerardine, join the conversation. Who else is here? Sharon, Sis Sharon, join the conversation. Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Nagwa is also here. I see
Yeah.
you. Greetings to Japan. We are all the children of Adam, humans. We should never be described hatred or loved because of our skin color or what our ancestors did or were. I agree with you. I agree with you. And sometimes it's not as simple as that. When you are, depending on who you are in the spaces that you're in, where the spaces that you interact in, even when you don't want, sometimes you're constantly reminded. You're constantly being reminded of your skin color. Is that one thing that is visible? People may not know your academic grades. People may not know how knowledgeable you are inside. People may not, but what people see immediately when they see you is your skin color and sometimes your gender. Sometimes your gender. I say sometimes deliberately with my diversity awareness mind. Sometimes your gender, but your skin color is something that is there. You carry it with you wherever you go, and people either like or hate you. People either discriminate against you or include you. And it's not about what people do, but also the way we carry ourselves in those spaces. Sometimes there had been a time in my life when I used to think like, as a black woman, this is how far I can come. I can't go any further because this is the space of black women. So because of our skin color and because of what we think people think about us, we tend to limit ourselves sometimes. And I think being aware of your skin color, not colorblind, from my perspective, Nagua, I get you very well, but from my very own perspective and my 50 years of experience, life experience in this world, I want to say I'm very much aware of my skin color. And where it is necessary, I put it in the front. Where it is not necessary, I can also put it behind. But we have those traits, the traits that make us, that we can't really negate them sometimes in life. P, what has been your
Yes.
experience?
Oh, what's that?
What has been your experience with
With
do you think with skin color? With skin color, with
well,
melanin skin color and
I
different places.
see, growing up in Guyana, we are a land of many races, as we say. We are six peoples.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
a Guyanese doesn't necessarily look like me. A Guyanese
mm-hmm,
looks like me, like so many people. We have people
mm-hmm,
of East Indian descent, we have Portuguese descent, we have um, Chinese, we have the Amerindians who are the indigenous people of South America. They're there,
mm-hmm,
and there are many tribes of them. And then we have the mixed races. So you have black and white mulatto, you have black and Amerindian, Boffiano, you have the Santantone, the Portuguese mix. You have the Douglas, the Indian and black. So I grew up with people of different races. So I went to school. We would have this thing like garbanzo beans, chana, street food, and the vendors would sell them
Mm-hmm.
right there. And my East Indian friends would have a paper, a brown paper with this thing inside, and all of us, East Indian, Black, Portuguese, whoever, we all putting our fingers in that thing and eating. So that's how I grew up. So I did not get a sense of blackness as a negative. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when I left Guyana, I realized that race was not the lens I saw the world through.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think of my skin at all. I, I,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't grow up with a problem because people look like me ruled our country. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we had the first people who sought for independence of our country was an Indian man, Chedi Jagan, Forbes Burnham, black man.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't grow up with that sense of a deep understanding of this conflict. That's not to say that in Guyana there aren't ethnic and racial tensions. They're there. We call each other names and stuff like that. But to the extent when I was growing up, how deep it was, I didn't understand that. And there's some very deep political issues. I didn't realize much about skin color until I ran into some what people call microaggressions because of
Mm-hmm.
blackness. But at the time, I wasn't even aware. You see, the thing is, it just go over my head. You know, I had to read about those things. I had to um, learn about them. So even some racial aspersions don't even bother me. The N word,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you can call me the N word. Doesn't bother me because I'm not that. That's what you think I
Mm-hmm.
am. But that's not my problem. It's your problem. I would get a
Mm-hmm.
problem when you start to assault me physically. That's the problem. But you can say what you like. It doesn't rile me. And that's not everybody's experience. But I read and I understand that blackness is not necessarily just a skin color. It's
Mm-hmm.
cultural, it's orientations and reorientations to certain kinds of ideologies, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we know that in history, in order to subjugate a people of a certain place, like Black people, as we say, or African people, they had, it's not even the color now, it's your blood. You know, if you had one drop of African ancestry in you, you could be white like Jew, you're black.
Mm-hmm.
So they go along bloodlines. So to look at a person and say, okay, your skin color is dark and you're one thing, or your skin color is white. You remember, in American culture, in American history, some people who were black, who were children of the enslavers, which that thing always bothered me. You think
Mm-hmm.
black people are terrible, but then you sleep with a black woman. What is that about?
Mm-hmm.
You think black people are so terrible and all this kind of stuff, and they nurse your baby, they cook your food. In my culture, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, this is time to give them na to eat. It's na. Na is what the woman in the help give the people to eat in the pie. It's like, wait, I don't understand it. People are in your yard, working in your house, intimate places. So to me, this whole business about blackness is not necessarily about blackness. It's about power. It's about power
Mm-hmm.
and about control and dominance. You know, so you
Mm-hmm.
would have men and women who might look white in America, and they have black in them. They're of black ancestry or African ancestry, but they're passing. There's a need to pass as another person. So this is a very
Mm-hmm.
complex issue. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
aware of it. I've read of it. I'm not ignorant of these kinds of things. But skin is problematic. Skin, defining oneself by skin is very, very problematic. And what I noticed that little children, they respond to skin color on different ends of the continuum. They have preconceived mindsets about what dark skin color means, even as children.
Mm-hmm.
where does that come from? So the issues come up. And so when I was looking at your book and hearing you talk and look at the format of the book, I noticed that you started with diversity and you put
Mm-hmm.
Are All Africans Black literally in the middle of the book, but the
Mm-hmm.
title is
Mm-hmm.
Are All Africans Black. It
Mm-hmm.
appears to me as if you're setting up the discussion and contextualizing the the situation to prepare
Mm-hmm.
us to talk about Are All Africans Black.
Mm-hmm.
So, if this is for children, do they need an adult to help them buffer or navigate the discussions that come up before? Because I might ask myself, okay, I'm going to read Are All Africans Black? And then they say, first thing is diversity. Why am I talking about diversity and black and Are
Mm-hmm.
All Africans Black? And then I get life expectancy. Life
Mm-hmm.
expectancy, Are All Africans Black? Do Africans have um, a unique situation when it comes to expectancy and blackness,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the that question. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting read. So you go down all kinds of lanes, and perhaps children are asking all these questions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When I wrote that book, again, the books that I write, they are very, very tied to where I come from, the spaces I've been to. In
Hmm.
Austria, one of my core field of business was diversity and inclusion. And so I
Hmm.
have that background and I know what is being said in there. I know the conversations. And when I
Hmm.
decided to write this to answer that questions, it came, my books are they're not like preconceived, this is what I want to write. I get the
Hmm.
title and I sit down and then it just comes. So it came with those, the aspect of diversity. And for me, it had to do with the complexity of the question. It had to
Hmm.
do with the complexity of the question. You see, the title of the book is in chapter 6. Before we're expanding the grounds, just like Nagua said, people who will say, oh no, we are all born equal and we should be equal. I want to touch that space and say, I know where I'm coming from. And then I go touch the question and then I go again back to show you the people, populations in Africa who are not black. And I show you black people outside of Africa. So just
Hmm.
kind of brightening the debate to say wherever you come from, you can pick up. I'm not here to give you answers. I'm here to start a conversation and to let the conversation take us to the different spaces where we are in, and even the spaces that are not considered here. In terms of, the way elderly people are treated, in elderly Africans are treated. Um, Coming from a European, having lived 20 years in Europe and seeing them grow old, they contribute to the society and then they grow old. And then this concept of saying we have to put them in their homes for the elderly is not an African concept. You see some of them, they pass out very quickly. Some of them can't fit in there. So I wanted to come again to say, as Black people, as African people, we have a different attitude towards our elderly. We
Hmm.
consider them to be part of the society. Where I come from, my grandmother became our teacher. Why our parents are out forging for life and trying to make things work in life to cater for our immediate needs. The elderly people in the family took over the education and they will take
Hmm.
you to different places, whether it's through riddles, through storytelling, through whatever. They have a different value when they grow older. And it was
Hmm.
important for me. We're going to talk about the skin color. We're going to talk about Africans as Black people. We have to look into what makes Black people, what makes them stand out. So I had to go to
Right.
take myself to all those angles to say it's not just a skin color, it's not just nothing. We're not just talking about skin color. We're talking about culture. We're talking about habits. We're talking about lifestyles. We're talking about much more than just the skin color when we ask that question. So that is
Right.
the perspective that I come from, and I want us to have an open debate irrespective of where we're going to. Again, I'm not here to offer answers. I'm here to start a conversation, to ignite a conversation, and just let the conversation take us to places that we wish to go. So Geraldine says, no, Geraldine says, I grew up with a very positive image of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Did not know. So I did not, yes. So Geraldine, I'm very happy for you. There's some people
Mm-hmm.
who do not. There's some people who have a lot of identity crisis. There's
Yeah.
quite a lot of young people. When you see what goes on in the media, let me give you just one example. The kids that I work with in South Africa, a couple of times we've had to do some of our exercises outdoors, and the door where we do it faces the street. And each time that white kid passes through that street, my black kids shrink. Auntie, no, I can't.
Wow.
No, you can pass first. They're looking at me. No, no, they will judge me. No, they will say something. No, Auntie, I don't want them to watch me. This is what it is. This is, there's some of these things that are in there. When you ask a person and say, when you hear black, what do you associate with? What are the 10 words that you associate with? And I did training for police officers, executive officers in Austria for 7 years. And I would always ask them the question, when you hear Africa or black, what are the 10 words that come immediately in your mind that you associate these two words with? And it always negative. Somewhere along the line, they say they have rhythm in their blood. Somewhere along the line, they say they're good footballers, they're good musicians, but it always starts with poverty. It starts with all of that. And I think the spaces that we grow up in, where we socialize or where we live, they kind of have an impact on our perceptions of who we are and where we come from. In Austria, you will not see all the pictures that you see on the street posters. They all have to do with starving African children. When you listen to the news about Africa, it has to do with a catastrophe. No one tells us how many gold is being taken out of Africa. No one tells us that coltan comes from Africa. All those things, you don't get them. So you grow up thinking like you come from a space of limitation. I remember one kindergarten child in Austria telling me, I'm so happy that you brown people from Africa came here because there's not enough food to eat in Africa. In our village, there is a supermarket. This is a small kindergarten child. Another one, another one asked me, what do you Africans even have if you don't come to Europe to survive? You all die on the street, right? This is the perception. And when I look at my children growing up in that context, the kind of questions that they get asked at school. At one point, Victoria, my daughter, she had a lot of trouble in school because she always stood up. She always stood up and asked questions, and she would not take it. At one point, she even had to take her family album. We traveled to Cameroon. She took pictures. She had to take the pictures to her class, to show her classmates and even her teacher to tell them, we are not starving. My family is not starving. It's not everyone that is starving in Africa. And still then they said, no, this is a Photoshop. So
Like you said, ignorance. What's the quote you talk about ignorance? That quote with ignorance. I mean,
yes.
yes, in the African conversation, we have the ignorance coming up. But like I say, this blackness is one topic, but cultural perceptions and how cultures align or misalign has a lot to do with how people are perceived. I
Yes.
remember when I first left Guyana, no, when I first came to North America, I was with an organization. I went to Beverly Hills, and we had like a meetup there, and other people came. And that's for the first time I'd been in the company of so many white people.
Mm.
So some of the people will make conversations. I found them very affable. And one guy kept coming to me every morning and talking. But I thought, well, he was nice. And then one morning I had cereal because the first thing I got that was strange, because in our culture, you don't have juice and milk and porridge and all these things together. That's just crazy. So they have this breakfast with juice and all these different things and milk and everything. I'm like, what is this? So they only had cereal. So they had this cornflakes and they had bananas and stuff. So I have this cornflakes and the milk and whatever and the banana. And then he said to me, "So Pauline, so what do you eat in your place?" And I'm thinking, what do I eat in my place? What am I supposed to say? Because what do you mean? So I looked at him and said, what do you mean? He said, do you eat cornflakes for breakfast? I said, no, no, no. He thought that that was very strange. I said, this is not food. I said, this is a waste of time. Only tearing up my gums. And because I was so frank and I look back at it and I cringe. And then I picked up my banana and I went out eating. He sat there, he watched me. And then he said, do you eat bananas in your country? Well, that's when I got it. Banana. The Caribbean. Ask what's Geraldine. The Banana Republic or the Caribbean. Banana? So I said, no, we don't eat banana in our country. We eat stewed alligators and crocodiles. And we climb coconut trees on our backs and we swing for trees. Brother man get up and walked away because I had him covered. He was coming for a story, so I gave him a story. Banana and cereal. Give me my good rice and fish and my pop and my porridge in the morning, my cornmeal porridge, hot and nice. And then when I met the African guys, I met some African guys in the Philippines. I went down there for something, and they embraced me like a sister. And they said, "My sister, you have to come Friday night. We will cook." I said, "What you gonna cook?" They're gonna cook ugali. I said, "What?" So they got this cereal and they were stirring it around in the pot and they were excited. As far as I'm concerned, they're making a very strong porridge. And then they stirred it up and then they put it in the thing and they said, "My sister, this is," and they started to tell me about it. They said, "My sister, if you eat this in the morning and you go to school, at midday, all you have to do is drink water. And then it swell in your stomach. And then afternoon at 2 o'clock, you drink some more water. And then it swells some more." So they said, "Don't eat it at night because you will be dreaming about the red horse, the black horse, whatever." So it's like, I think it's cultural ignorance sometimes. And
Mm,
I was not very nice to the young man, but I'm not sorry that I said that because I had other encounters because I
mm,
became aware that I was a mystery. And I don't feel like at times I have to be educating people. Go read a book. It's not my
mm,
job to teach you about me if I don't want to. I don't want to have every
mm,
social conversation a geography lesson, a cultural anthropology class, and all those kinds of things. But sometimes it's left to some of us to do the work so that
mm,
we can do it at least for our children, so that they can contextualize their situations and not grow up ignorant. Yeah.
mm. So we have some comments. Nagwas shared a verse from the Quran. She said, "What does she say? A verse from the Quran that I love the most. It's 49:13. O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female, and made you people and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Indeed, Allah is knowing and acquainted." Yes, I think in all the religions
Thank
we
you,
have
Nagwa.
verses like this. But sometimes when it comes to the reality, you're asking even people who work with these verses. But I don't want to go to that space. I just wanted to acknowledge your posting, Nagwa, and say thank you for sharing that. It's very
Yeah.
insightful. Geraldine says, "I grew up with a very positive image of myself." Okay, we got that already.
Yes.
I grew up with, I was taught that I was bright and white people are not. Okay, good for you, Geraldine.
Geraldine, you made me laugh.
She says, "No, I don't know to what." And then she says, "They have plenty of bananas." Yeah, when you talk about the
Of
Banana
course.
Republic. And
And this
Sister
banana
Biso
in
says,
America is terrible.
Sister Tabiso says, "I could listen to you all day, Dr. Pauline Bird. Your voice, your story, your accent, your passion, all of you." So,
Thank you very much.
so please, it's the
Yes,
hour.
we
We
have to
are
wrap up.
4
Yes.
minutes, 4 minutes after the hour of 2. we should be rounding up this book. And I just want to say again that the intention of having these conversations is first of not just to introduce these books so that people know what is in the book beyond the title, but also it is to ignite a conversation. And it has to do with you and I, our encounter. There's so many conversations that you and I have had in private that just come from the fact that you are a sister, a sister. I see you like my next door sister, neighbor, friend, but you come
Yes.
from so far, and yet we have
Hmm.
so much in common. And we've been
Yes.
sharing so much of this, and we thought like having an open conversation like this may also ignite fruitful conversations with other people. It may give them the reason to connect, to share. We're still in the decade of people of African descent, the UN decade. And I don't think it is a decade just for the UN to do whatever it is doing, but it is a framework that gives us the chance to get to meet each other, open our hearts, embrace each other, become curious about each other. You followed me to Africa. I still have the intention to follow you somewhere, but not to Japan,
Yes.
sis. No, I'm not coming to Japan. When you're in
Japan's a
Guyana, I
beautiful
have the
place.
intention to come to Buxton Village and see
Yes, we would
the
welcome you
African
in
village in
Boston Village.
Buxton, but
Yes.
not in Japan.
When next
So
when this was my year for Guyana, I was supposed to be home at this time, but you know, La Corona messed up all my stuff.
Okay. Corona mess up everyone else's life. It's something that we all are in, whether you're rich, poor, or whether
Precisely.
whether your skin color is black, green, yellow, purple, whatever. We all are in the coronavirus. That is the one thing that that is for all of us. And Sis Cornelia says, thanks for the educational hour again. Sis, tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow, we are having a conversation on Made in Africa. So we'll be going from Algeria to Zimbabwe looking for cars made in Africa. Yes, we do have cars in Africa. We have Africans who are designing aeroplanes. You'll be amazed at what is in this continent, the kind of cars that you'll see. But we'll keep that conversation for tomorrow. And my host tomorrow is going to be a family from Cape Town, a family of upcoming Globuntu young authors. There are three of them in number. So they will be hosting this conversation because we have to give my sister P some time to attend to some other things in
Yes,
her college. But on Monday, we'll be right back again. She'll be in again in the conversation. So, P, thank you so much. Those of you who are out there, again, we invite you to share the conversation if it is interesting for you. If you think it can help someone, a teacher, a family, a kid, an elder person, a friend. If you think these conversations can be interesting for them, we encourage you to share, like our page, and join the conversation again tomorrow. Our books are available at www.globuntubooks.com. And all the conversations that we've been having since the 3rd of August, they are all streamlined in on this page, so you can go back and forth as you want. We encourage you to have watch parties. Take some of the videos and do watch parties with your friends, with your community, and just ignite the conversation right there. Up until then, we still have much in store for you. We look
right.
forward to the conversation. So, what time is it in
Yeah.
Japan now?
9:07 p.m.
9:07 p.m.
from your tomorrow.
Wow, you're ahead of
Yes.
us. Anyway,
Yes, ma'am.
good for you.
Yeah,
So thank you so much for
thank
today's
you everyone
conversation.
thank you for teaching us a lot, and thank you everyone who's listening to our voices. I hope you share the conversations, and let's tune in tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, or yes, tomorrow night, yes. And then we rest for the weekend, right? Yes.
We rest on
Thank you again.
Sunday. First, we rest on Sunday. And then on
Yes,
Monday,
I
we're
have.
going after colonization, the
Yes.
big thing.
I apologize for disappearing. I had to go take my dog downstairs. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you,
Yes.
P.
All
Have a
right.
good evening and a
You're
good
welcome.
night.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
to all of you sisters and brothers out there. See you tomorrow again.
See you. Bye bye.